The RetroTink 4K is the most powerful gaming scaler on the market. It's also the most expensive one. In this video, I'll show you it working with more than 15 different consoles. First, a brief explanation of why you should use a scaler to play retro games in modern displays. Basically, nowadays, not all TVs and monitors accept legacy audio and video connectors, and the ones that do usually do a really poor job with scaling, and the result is bad image quality along with lots of input lag. So, in this context, a lot of gaming scalers have been brought to the market, and what the gaming scalers do is take in the analog signal of retro consoles and transform it into HDMI with low latency and good image quality. There are lots of good gaming scalers in the market. I personally vouch for the RetroTink 5X Pro, which works extremely well and accepts a lot of different inputs. And my previous videos were all produced using the RetroTink 5X. I also recommend the GBS-Control for a lower budget, and it works really well too. Now we've got the RetroTink 4K, which is a very powerful scaler. My idea for this video is to first quickly show it to you and then demonstrate a bunch of games running with it. The RetroTink 4K I've got here has a finalized PCB, but it has a prototype shell. Mike Chi, the creator of the RetroTink products, was kind enough to let me buy it in advance so I could produce content for my job, and I took the opportunity to also make this video for this channel. So note that the final version will look slightly different than this one. The final version has a different surface texture. And regarding the product itself, it has an SD card port in the front, as well as one S-video input and one composite input. On the right side, it has a SCART input, and in the back, it has a component input, an analog audio input, a VGA input, an optical audio input, an HDMI input, and finally an HDMI output. I mainly use the Tink 4K to scale analog signals, but it has some nice uses for the HDMI input, and I'll mention those throughout the video. The Tink 4K also comes with a remote control with a bunch of buttons. Some are just for menu navigation, but a lot are shortcuts. The Tink 4K can be used as a plug-and-play product, but honestly, it's not worth getting one to be a plug-and-play device. In that case, I would for sure recommend either the Tink 5X Pro or the GBS-Control. Where the RetroTink 4K really shines is when you adjust it according to the console you're using it with. Personally, what I like to do is pick a really well-built cable, component, a VGA, a SCART one, open the RetroTink 4K's profile page, pick a dedicated profile for the console I'll be using, and then run auto gain and auto phase in a bright, colorful screen. That's usually enough for awesome results. For even better results, you can use the 240p test suite, open up color bars for auto gain and then checkerboarding for auto phase. And the results you will see now. Usually it's really hard for scalers to work with the Nintendo 64 because its analog signal is super noisy, but these are the results I got with an RGB modded Nintendo 64 using a GameScare SCART cable, and honestly, I had never seen such a clean video signal coming out of a Nintendo 64.
What's going on in this town?
Hold on. I ain't got no clue, darling. By the time I noticed something was wrong, the entire city was infested with zombies.
For even better results, at least in my opinion, we can apply CRT filters and masks to better blend the pixels together. This is what I got by simply applying scanlines and a mask. And if you have an HDR display, you can inject HDR in the video signal to compensate for the loss of brightness when using scanlines and masks. I cannot show you that right now, but if you're interested, I can make a future video in HDR about the HDR injection in the RetroTink 4K. Now let's take a look at the first PlayStation, which I captured with a GameScare SCART cable. I tested it with Chrono Cross, so you can see how well it looks and also how well the Tink 4K handles transitions between 240p and 480i. A lot of scalers drop the signal when changing resolutions, but the RetroTink 4K doesn't. But note that other scalers like the Tink 5X Pro and the GBS-Control can also switch between resolutions without dropping the signal. And then regarding Chrono Cross, I think it looks even better with scanlines. Check it out. And now let's take a look at more consoles from the 5th generation. This is the 3DO running police notes via a composite cable. Image quality via composite is usually awful, honestly, but the Tink 4K does a good job with it. And here you can see a comparison between composite and S-Video with the 3DO running Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. And here's Gex running via S-Video. Now let's see the FM Towns Marty running Puli Rula via composite. And this is Turbo Outrun, again via composite. And via S-Video, I captured Afterburner 2, and Splatterhouse. Now let's check out some Saturn games. I'm running the Saturn via a GameScare SCART cable, and Decathlete is a really good example of how well the Tink 4K deals with 480i. Decathlete looks amazing in my opinion. And now, this is Sega Touring Car Championship. It's a really tough racing game with progressive signal for the gameplay. And where the Saturn really shined was with fighting games, 2D games, and this is X-Men Children of the Atom. It looks amazing. And going back in time a little bit, this is Super Mario Bros. 3 running via an NES with composite cable. I think the result is amazing considering how bad the image quality normally is via composite. And I feel like this game runs better with the CRT filter to really clean up the image. I also ran Mario 3 with a Phantom system. It's a Brazilian Famicom. I'm using here the composite cable, same composite cable, and I had never noticed that before, but via Phantom system, the game seems to have a different color palette, and also it sounds different. Check it out. Unfortunately, I do not have a Master System, but I do have an Analogue Mega SG, and the Tink 4K can emulate the Analogue DAC, and I tested that with a few games. Check it out. Another console that I don't have is the Sega Genesis, but I do have a JVC X'Eye, which is a combo of the Sega Genesis with a Sega CD. It's the American version of the Wonder Mega, if you know what the Wonder Mega is. So So here are a few results I got with the X'Eye using an Insurrection Industries SCART cable. This is Sonic 2. And this is World of Illusion. And with the X'Eye, I also tested a Sega CD game, in this case, Mortal Kombat, which looks amazing, in my opinion, even better with scanlines. And now here's the Super Nintendo. I have a Super Nintendo Baby that is RGB modded, and I used it with the GameScare SCART cable. This is Super Mario World. And this is Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. And from that same generation of consoles, I've got the NeoGeo. I have a consoleized MVS built by GameScare, which I tested with the GameScare SCART cable. This is Metal Slug 2. First with raw pixels, and then with scanlines. And this is King of Fighters 2002. And with the NeoGeo, I didn't use the dedicated SMK profile, I used the default profile of the Tink 4K, and then I used auto gain and auto phase. That was it, and the image quality is amazing, as you can see. Moving on, here's the Dreamcast running via a GameScare SCART adapter. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is a really good example because it features 3D backgrounds with 2D characters. And another nice example is Soul Calibur, because it looks so amazing, and it's crazy to think that this game came out more than 25 years ago. A console which is really hard for scalers to work with is the PlayStation 2, because most of its games run in 480i. To capture this console, I used an HD Retrovision component cable, and this is Clock Tower 3 running in 480i.
I will send you back to the depths of Hades!
And here's God of War running in 480p. One thing I'd like to mention regarding the PS2, and that also applies to other consoles, is that with the Tink 4K, we can get audio via optical cable and video via component or SCART, and then we have the Tink 4K blend the video input with the audio input via optical, and this way you can play games with surround sound via HDMI. With the Nintendo GameCube, we have a very good example of the utility of the HDMI input on the Tink 4K. For the GameCube, I'm using a Carby, which uses the digital out of the GameCube for an HDMI signal. But in this case, we have 480p via HDMI, and the Tink 4K can properly scale that 480p signal without adding any lag. So Calibur 2 looked amazing via the Tink 4K on the GameCube. And here's Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, which also looks amazing and, in my opinion, looks even better with scanlines. One of my favorite GameCube games is Mario Kart Double Dash, and this game I ran via backwards compatibility on the Nintendo Wii using a GameScare component cable. Even though the Wii signal is worse than the GameCube, it still looks great via Nintendo Wii. On the Wii, I also tested Mario Kart Wii. And I tested Super Paper Mario, which runs great with scanlines. And now let's check out the PSP, which I captured using the official Sony component cable. This is God of War Ghost of Sparta. For this case, no scanlines, I'm using the LCD filter. And here's Final Fantasy Tactics. I also tested the PS Vita TV, also known as PlayStation TV. This is Final Fantasy X Remaster. And this is Persona 4 Golden. And I also tested the Xbox 360 via HDMI. This is Red Dead Redemption.
I mean, I ain't one to judge a man by the company he keeps, but...
Well, he ain't been friends for a long time.
And this is a good example of how the Tink 4K runs with HDMI in more modern consoles. Honestly, I don't see myself using the RetroTink 4K for consoles that can output HDMI at 720p or higher. Maybe for scanlines, for masks, but in terms of image quality with raw pixels, I just don't see the point of using the Tink 4K. I don't see myself using the PS4, PS5, Xbox One with the Tink 4K.
Come on, easy up now.
Even with the Mr. FPGA or Analogue consoles, I think I'll just use those directly, even though the Tink 4K can emulate the Analogue dock or take in the Mr. FPGA direct HDMI signal. I don't think it's the best use for the Tink 4K. One aspect of the Tink 4K that I wasn't able to test, but that is really important and worth mentioning, is the fact that it can deal with unusual resolutions and refresh rates, which is really useful if you're using retro computers with it or arcade boards. Overall, the Tink 4K is awesome, it works extremely well, it's easy to use, and it has an amazing image quality. It's definitely the best scaler I've ever used, but I would only recommend it if you're an enthusiast and if money is not a problem for you. I still think that the GBS-Control is the best scaler if you're on a tight budget, and the Tink 5X Pro is the best scaler for overall use. The Tink 4K currently costs 750 American dollars, and that's a lot of money. I see a lot of people actually criticizing the price, but I'll try to show you the way I see the situation. Mike Chi, the creator of the RetroTink family of products, is probably pricing the Tink 4K according to the opportunity cost for him to work on the product. For sure, he could have, you know, a really nice return if he invested his time at a different job or a different company, but instead he's working on the RetroTink family of products. And in the end, the Tink 5X Pro is still available, and it's available for less than half the price of the Tink 4K. There are a few scalers competing against the RetroTink 4K, which are the OSSC Pro and the Morph 4K by Pixel FX, but I haven't had the chance to test those. And that's it, guys. I hope you liked the video. Please consider subscribing to the channel for future content, and thank you very much for watching.